I'm in a game. I'm in a game. Hello, I'm in the video with my daddy.
What is going on, everybody? Today, guest on here is Frankie B. I'm gonna let him plug all his Facebook, YouTube, because it's pretty cool guy. If we have computer problems, I'm just gonna try to adjust and hopefully everything goes smoothly. Hopefully everything goes smoothly though. All right, here we go. All right, Frankie. So first off, plug all your YouTube stuff because you have a really unique name for your channel.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Josh. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, I got I do several things, several projects. It's basically for modeling. I have a YouTube channel which is scale modeling with scale modeling Frankie B. I host a model building hobby group, but that's the name of it, model building hobby group on Facebook. That's got about just about 1,200 members. You know, everybody sits there and they post. And then I got Pit Boss Pro Racing. That's for slot cars and everything else. But yeah, basically what I've been focusing on these days has been the basically scale modeling with Frankie B on YouTube, and then the model building hobby group on Facebook.
No, and that's the cool thing about your group is it's not just model cars, right?
No, it's model building hobby group. Anything
Right.
related to related to models. It could be shipbuilding. It could be it's anything across the board. Anything anybody wants to post, they can post up there. The only thing I do not allow is selling on on the Facebook group and the model building hobby group. Everything's good to go. You just cannot sell nothing on it. And you know they pop posts on. It's not going to be for selling. If they want to do kit reviews and things of that nature, that's fine. You know, Trevor up in Canada, he does a lot of posting of kit reviews and everything else. So I let his videos slide just for the fact that he is doing he's being interactive and he's posting new kits that are coming out, and he is also doing review of kits and building and everything else. So, he's got the good to go. But it's open to the public, the Facebook page. Um, I had to, a while back, I had to stop that open to the public and put member requests in because you know how it goes with the robots and with the girls showing this and that. You know what I mean? Join groups and I was getting low. So, but now it's opened up again. You know.
So, where are you located in the U.S.? Because you've moved recently, which is why you haven't been on before this. So,
Right now I relocated. I'm in Southwest Florida, over in the North Port Venice area, and I located down here about a year and a half ago. Originally, I grew up in New York, and then I lived in suburbia on Long Island, New York. And then basically, I just had enough of New York, and I ran to the hills. You know.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So what's the hobby scene like there? Where you're at now?
Scene, it's pretty much there's pretty much nothing of a hobby scene as far as clubs and things of that nature. There is a nice hobby shop around here. Um, and there it's called the Hobby Shop, and that's located in Northport. And basically, they have a nice modeling selection, a lot of oddball stuff that they get in, and and they also have like RCs and everything else. So it's basically a one-stop hobby shop. It's only like a 5,000, 6,000 square foot area, but it's jam packed, And believe it or not, with that one hobby shop down here, had more access to hobby stores than they did on Long Island. Because on Long Island there was pretty much two hobby stores, and that was pretty much it for the mom and pop stores.
No, I mean that's pretty cool that they've got you got at least one hobby shop near you, right?
Yeah, yeah. What's nice about it is I can go there, and if I want to order kits, I can order any type of kit I want. Plus, they have a great selection of whether it's military, cars, ships. They have great, and what I like about their selection, they have you have the ability to get different kits where you're not relying on the Hobby Lobby kits or the Michaels kits and things of that nature, or going line and paying an arm and a leg, So that's what I enjoy about that shop, and they're reasonably priced, With the hobby in general, over the past 5 years, it's become very pricey, you know, and it's due to the fact that there's more of a demand after COVID. People got into modeling more, and then plus the rise in petroleum products, to make the styrene and everything else that went through the roof, and then the petroleum products for the paints, the thinners, and everything else. So the cost factor definitely did increase, over the years.
No, I mean yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's crazy how much or how much the kits are getting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean,
mean,
when
there's nothing really we can do about it. It's the price of making them at this point is what hurts.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Just like anything, transportation costs go up, people's overhead goes up for the mom and pop stores, and even the retail chains between trucking the product, the logistics, and everything else. You know, it it tends to get pretty pricey. A lot of the retail store chains, what they used to do was, they used to have the 40% coupons on, 50% coupons. So you would get a kit, so you were walking out the door paying $16, $17 for a kit. And then within the past 4 years, your average kit has basically rocketed.
Yeah. So what is it that you like to build?
Well, I specifically like to build things that models and things that reflect on my life and where I've been, what I've done. Um, like for cars, I've been doing a lot of cars. What I do with my builds is I'll focus on a specific build, and that will I'll do that build, and I'll build that model for a friend. I won't tell them I'm building it. I won't let them know what I'm building. And usually on their birthday, I'll send them the kit if they're not around, or I'll meet up with them and I'll make the kit scale model of their car. For example, if we were hanging out and we were having good times and everything else, and or we may have gotten to an accident or something, I'd recreate the dent where we got where he got nailed, or what happened with the car, or I'd do specific scratches, or I'd make different types of bumper stickers up that were detailed and scaled to that car. So as a joke, the only people that would know about it were people that were in that car, and so on and so forth. And then I give them the models. I
That's
build.
cool.
Yeah. I build. I build and I give my. There's certain cars that I do keep when they're personal. Like I did my old man Chevelle. Did a scale model of my father's Chevelle. That I kept, obviously. But everything else I've given away as far as cars, for model building, for scale modeling. I've also got into doing replicas of people's RCs. I did a RC for a body for an RC for Bodajo. He's a YouTuber, and he's into the motorsports and stuff. So I got talking to him. He was on Long Island, and I actually did a scale replica from photos of an RC of an international. And the photos he gave me, he didn't expect this, but the photos he gave me had the color and everything else. But they also had deer up on top because father was a hunter. And yeah, I did replicas of the deer. I basically molded them and did the cutouts of them, and then I made the coolers, and then I asked him, type of rifles that he used when he went hunting, and I basically did I did a replica of those vehicles. I enjoy doing replicas of people's vehicles, and the rewarding thing for me is when I do that, I have the ability to build, but then again, also I have that ability to share it with people on a personal level as well as building level and on the tech level within the modeling community, doing the hangouts.
So, but you also do more. You also do like slot cars and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I do slot cars. I was doing slot cars. I was building drag cars for slots. I was building drag cars, and one of the things is when I go into something, unfortunately, I go right down the rabbit hole. So I was building slot cars, and I've always loved slot cars, even as a kid. The little 164th, right up to the 124th, 125th, and I got into slot cars, and then I got into building the slot cars, the track cars, and then after that, I started. I basically started. What happened was I wanted to see how many RPMs the slot cars were doing, and I went online to go look at something that would give me the RPMs, what was going on. And I couldn't find nothing. So then I went down the rabbit hole with my Pit Boss Pro Racing, where I actually designed. I basically designed it myself, manufactured it myself, and what it did was it was the Pit Boss Racing. So I was able to adjust the voltage for the race cars. It would give me the RPMs, how many amps were being used, uh, the just the it was also for the not only drag strips. It was where I was able to control the brake on this slot and everything. I went to have it all, you know. And then yeah, so it's been primarily most of my stuff has been revolving around cars, whether it was model building, the mechanical end of it, model building, slot cars, AFX cars, and things of that nature.
No, I mean that's cool. That was one of the topics we'll bring up a little bit later because as a kid, I was so into the slot car thing because of Tyco, right?
Yeah, yeah, the Tyco.
Tyco was a big company back in the 80s and 90s. Not so much anymore.
Absolutely. Not so much anymore. When we were kids and we grew up in Long Island, what happened was Aurora AFX was on Long Island, and as kids, we used to ride our bicycles all the way from Valley Stream to Mineola, and it was about 15 miles. We used to ride to their distributorship. And we used to go in there, and we used to hawk the dumpsters because when we were kids, we didn't have nothing, man. We didn't have nothing. So we stopped the dumpsters and get the blems. And one day we got, and then Aurora from AFX, they brought us in, and they actually gave us stuff. They gave us tracks, they gave us cars, and that's what basically sparked it. That's what sparked my love for the for the AFX and the 164th cars, because as a kid, I didn't have nothing, man. We didn't have nothing. We had nothing. We were fucking dead flat broke. My old man was working hard, busting his ass. And, we all did what we could. We did what we could. And, so we found ways around it.
Right. So Ron Stewart asks, did you rewind the DC motors for the slot cars?
Not for Well, on the what I was doing I've done rewiring on the slot cars for the smaller ones, for the AFX cars and stuff like for stuff like this. I've taken the motors and I've rewound the motors and everything else. I've done that. But for my drag cars, what I used to do for the drag cars, I used to basically go with the stock motors and the stock and high performance motors and just put those in,
Oh,
as
sweet.
opposed to getting a motor and then beating it up that way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get back to modeling here in a minute, but like the slot car thing, because I'm an 80s and 90s kid. I remember when they first started having
Yeah,
them to where they could go up the walls. You remember that the gravity ones, I think they called them.
yeah, yeah,
I remember how those things,
yeah.
you could send them up the wall and then fly into the ceiling.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
was that
Yeah.
was some of the
Well,
that was that was some of
the
the
thing is that yeah. See the slot cars. See, my generation, your generation, and the thing was with slot cars. Slot cars, what did we used to do? We used to go to Toys R Us. We used to pick up a model for $3.99, $4.99. We used to build it, and then on the 4th of July we blow it up. Then what did we do? We sat on AFX cars all day long, or we rode our bicycles and we did what we had to do. But it I think the AFX cars and I mean, if you ask a lot of people in the modeling community, whether they had an AFX, a Tyco set, or things of that nature, they're going to say yes. And a lot of times you'll see builds out there where people are building these models that look like the AFX cars and the Tyco cars, when we were
right.
kids. You know, because
Yeah.
you know, for kids growing up in that time frame, there really wasn't much available for toys. There really wasn't for boys. It was either basketballs, and things of that nature, or AFX cars and models, and that was it.
Well, and like 80s, that whole He-Man series and you know that kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Well, the thing was, you
you
know what?
know,
When I grew up, most of my years was late. I was pretty much a late '70s, early '80s.
right.
During the '70s is what basically during the '70s is when I was a kid. '80s I was a teenager, and then when all the good shit started coming out, I was out already in the workforce. And I was out working. So I kind of right now what I'm doing now is after I retired and everything else, I'm kind of reliving my childhood. Absolutely, because the way I grew up and what the thing was, I was my between the summer between my 15th and 16th birthday in June, I was out on my own. So basically, what happened was, from after 15 years old, I had to fend for myself. So a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed doing, I had to shelf it, and it was model building, music. There was a lot of stuff that I had to shelf that I basically had to take care of myself and cut my own in the world. And thank God, knock wood, I became successful, and it was all good, and it was worth the effort. But now, when you start working at 15, and you're working around the clock, and you're going to high school, uh, when you're going to high school, holding down a full time job, it's tough. It's tough because I was actually.
Right.
It's tough because when I was in high school, um, I doubled up. I went to a Nassau Tech, which was Boston's. In the morning, I would go for aviation maintenance, get my airframe license, and then at nighttime, I used to go to for my power plant license, and then and that was an E class. But what happened was when I got back to my regular classes at school, I'd cut out and I'd go to work. So I had to wake up. I was up like 7 in the morning. From like seven to 12, I was going to my aviation program, and then from 12 to 5, I was working on a construction site, and then from 7 till basically 10 at night, I was getting my second license of and power plant. So when I graduated high school, don't forget, I was 15 years old at the time. 15, 16, 17, and 18. It was a 4-year program, and yeah, and that's what I did, and that's what I did for my whole term in high school, you know, and it was great. It was great because when I graduated high school, I had my airframe and power plant license, and I tested out, and then I worked for Grumman Aerospace. As a kid, as I was recruited. I was recruited from aerospace at 17 years old, school.
Oh wow.
I had to wait until I turned 18 to actually start working there. So I had to wait until June after graduation to actually start working there because you needed the security clearance, for Grumman Aerospace. So you needed the security clearance. You had to be cleared and everything else. So they did the whole background check and everything else, because it was high security clearance. Because at the time, the only aircraft that I worked on over at Grumman Aerospace that's actually still in service is the E2C Hawkeye, and that was my main project, the E2C Hawkeye, and then yeah, so that was my younger years, and then I got into research and development with Grumman Aerospace, and you got to keep in mind how old I was at the time. I was 18 years old. By the time I hit 20, I was running the E2C Hawkeye department in reference to building all the Longerons. I was the Longeron man. I was building Longerons. I was building, and that was my aircraft. And that was my baby, And then, I did work, from Grumman Aerospace. I did work on the shuttle. At the time in the 80s, they were contracted out to do the wings. So I did manufacturing on the shuttle for the wings themselves. What happened was, when I was working at Grumman, it was when the space shuttle blew up. But at the time, what we were doing was we were building the replacement parts for the shuttle. So when that shuttle blew up, all those replacement parts for the wings and everything that we were building actually became the next shuttle, and I believe that was the Endeavor. Was the first one that was made out of the replacement parts. So it's everything that I do with modeling basically reflects back to where I've been in my life and what I've done. And there's so many things. I mean, shit, dude, I should write a book. It's amazing. No, it's been crazy, man. Seriously, man. From my life in high school, and then working up to that point from Grumman Aerospace. Then Grumman Aerospace shut down, and then after Grumman Aerospace shut down on Long Island with their manufacturing, then I went out and I jumped into the service. I was in the service. I went into the Navy. I went in, since I had the airframe and power plant license in the background, and with the experience of the E2C, the EA6B, and at that time the A6 was being brought out, so I went into the service, and I went into the service for gas turbine systems with electrical. Well, wouldn't you know, kicking the ass. I go through boot camp. I start my my gas turbine systems over in Great Lake, Illinois, and I got about a month in, and the bastards canceled my A school. They canceled my A school. They canceled my B school, and that was the end of my program. You know what I mean? Then they had other offers. I'm like, no, man, that's not what I signed up for. So unfortunately, at that point in time, I really did want to make a career being in the service and going through, because my experience and everything else, but it just didn't pan out, and unfortunately it wound up being entry level SEP due to the amount of time in, and that was it, because I had to actually go out and get an attorney and get out for breach of contract with the United States Navy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that went down. And then, manufacturing, I couldn't go back to Grumman Aerospace because they were done. They moved all manufacturing out of Long Island. Then they gave me the opportunity after I got out of the service there, after boot camp and the portion of the A school. They gave me they said, you know what, you can go into, we'll give you your position, but you got to go down to Stewart, Florida, or Galveston, Texas. And I was like, nah, I'll pass on that. So then after that, I came out. I always fell back on construction. And then after I was doing the construction, um, Pan Am reopened. The Pan Am was the name was bought out. I started working for Pan Am for quite some time, and at that point in time is where I started getting heavily into recording music. Um, in my stint when I was about 15 years old, I was basically playing drums. I was playing percussion. And I love playing timpani and everything else. But when you're 15 years old, you ain't got no drum kit. How good are your chops gonna get? But on the music end of it, they used to play a place on Long Island, which is called My Father's Place up in Roslyn. And as a kid, I used to go to the Long Island Drum Center. And in the Long Island Drum Center, you had Vinny Appice, who's the drummer for. He played all over the place, man. He played for Black Sabbath. Um, he's Vinny Appice's just a well-known drummer. And I took lessons from him as a kid at 14 years old, and then I ran into Bobby Rondinelli from Rainbow, and I started taking lessons from him. And then that's my real true love was music. So after all that nonsense, after Pan Am, I started getting back into playing, and then I started doing studio work as a studio musician. When the studio musician came up, there was the same individual on Long Island that had the same name as me. He was he was into the disco scene and everything else. And then back in the day, there wasn't no internet. All people had to do to get in touch with you was open the phone book. Well, one day, my mother, I was about, I was 14 going on 15, but I didn't look 14 going on 15. My mother said, she goes, Frank, you got a phone call from Polydor. I'm like, Polydor? What the hell's going on, Polydor? So I called them back and they said, we need you in for a studio session. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, give me the address. And I showed up. I showed up to the session. And I went into the session for Polydor. And in those days, when you laid down drum tracks, you had to lay them spot on. If not, man, you had to redo it. And they really weren't into cutting the tape. And then so then after that, they found out who I was. They found out I wasn't the Frankie B that they had called. I was a teenager. I didn't have because doing the studio work, you need the musician guild card. I didn't have the union card for the musician guild card in Manhattan. And then that's how I started doing the music. And then when I got out, I started doing it again. And then basically the problem was with that, there wasn't enough money in it. I mean, you would go in, you would do a session. You get $1,500 to $2,000 a session for about 6 or 8 hours worth of work, which was great, but it was like few and far between. So then I started, getting hooked up in the musicianship, and everybody that was on Long Island, Brooklyn. You had bands like at the time that were coming up was Anthrax, Biohazard, Life of Agony. Those were all individuals and people that we went to the clubs with, and we all jammed and everything else. And I'm 16 years old. I was 16 years old, and the first quote unquote real gig I had, I played with at my father's place. I played with Johnny Winter and Rick Derringer, and this was in 81. I think it was 81 or 82. And they actually had to sneak me in. They had to sneak me in, man. They snuck me in, and they throw you. You sneak in with the equipment. Either I'd go in between the amps as they were being rolled in, or they throw me out the drum box. They would wheel me in, and when lights went out, I'd hit the stage, and away we went. But, yeah,
so
crazy.
with all that work and stuff, does that explain some of your model making? Because you do some pretty flawless paint jobs and stuff with all the construction and the military, and it seems like
what happens is
that helped a lot, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I was working at Grumman Aerospace, and when I was going for my airframe and my power plant license, and anybody that knows that's been around the block and everything else, everything is pay attention to detail. Pay attention to detail. You know, if you're working on aircraft and you're working on a turbine, you know what? If you don't pay attention to detail, somebody's going to die. You know what I mean?
Right.
So basically, my attention to detail, along with my OCD and going down rabbit hole, is basically where that comes from. You know, and just like anything, if I try to throughout my whole life, and it even reflects to my models, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to give it 110%. And that's the way it's been. There's no look. I can't look at something and say that's good enough. You know what I mean? You know, if it's going to somebody or it's for a certain purpose, or depending on what I'm doing, a lot of times I'll leave well enough alone. But if I'm going down a rabbit hole and I'm doing something for somebody, and if it's gonna be my work, it's gonna be 100%. And I take pride in what I do, and it doesn't matter what I do, whether I'm building a model or working or whatever I do. Raising my family, I take pride in what I do, and anything I do, I drop 110% on. And that's like you said, that background as a kid growing up, and everything that I've done and I've experienced has brought me to that level. And yeah, I do. I truly believe that, like you said, people take their life experiences and their knowledge and their mechanical abilities, things they've come across when they were working, and they bring their own little flair into it, their own little taste into it, whether it's the type of tools, when you're a modeler, it's bizarre, because when you enjoy and you go down that modeling rabbit hole, everything becomes models. You'll be sitting in the dentist chair and saying,
Right.
well, this isn't the dental implement, you know what I mean? But you're sitting in the dentist chair and you're like, hey, you know what? I can use that to scribe lines and things of that nature. So anything you see that goes on, you actually try to see how you can use it in modeling, or you can see how you can use it in everyday things just to make your life easier.
So we're gonna jump into tools next, okay? First, I
Okay,
want
good.
you to talk about that paint booth behind you. That is pretty interesting.
Oh yeah. What happened was, I don't know. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Let,
It's
let
in
me jump
the
screen since I'm rolling around in the back. Yeah, basically all it was on paint booth, and space
oh,
was
okay.
to try to work best my ability. So what I did was I had an old Craftsman cabinet. I cut the back out of that, and then I ran exhaust right into there. Inside there, I actually have it's actually a carbon filter that's in there. And with
Okay,
that
what
carbon
what
filter takes all the
Frankie, what type of carbon filter? Is it for like
it's
like a
actually
pool,
a
or is it?
no,
That
no,
makes sense.
no, no. Well, no, it's actually a carbon filter used in the grow houses for example,
Oh, okay.
for like medical marijuana and those grow houses.
Yeah.
They have carbon that filtrate the air outside of it, and that is so it not scrub the air, cold, all paint and everything else.
Hey, Frankie, you're starting to break up pretty
Discharge
good,
flows,
buddy. Go out and come back in real quick, and then we'll. That seemed to work
How's
earlier.
that?
Oh yeah, that's better.
Okay. So
We'll keep going. Keep going.
okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically basically in there. It's a filter that was used in the agricultural industry, and basically what it does is it filters the air. It was pricey. The filter itself is like 100, $160 for the filter.
Oh,
And
damn.
they go pretty quick. They go well. The thing is the thing is, it is $160, but the thing is, due to medical issues on my wife and everything, because my wife had cancer, so I don't like to use anything that's petroleum based products without without cleaning the air or scrubbing the air, or basically if I'm doing paint, I'll flip open the garage door and then I'll paint along with the paint booth. So
No,
that's what I do with that. But
so let's talk about some of the tools you got in front of you,
ready.
because you have that. I want to say it's a cake pan, but I'm guessing kind of.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll start off. It was because I was doing I was building a model. I built the E2C Hawkeye, and when I was building it, I was doing it to basically hang off the ceiling, and I got tired of busting my ass and picking up the model and putting paw prints on it. A lot of us guys, we put a lot of time and a lot of work, man, hours into some of these projects, and
Right.
you don't want to paw print it up. You don't want to damage anything. So when I was walking around, I think it was Ollie's or one of the junk stores, I saw this and I was like, hey, you know what? That's perfect, because you know what? I could just take a kit, I could take a model, put it on there, and instead of moving it all the time, I can just spin it, you know. And that's how I got to using this. It's actually like aluminum cake pan, and it works out great. It works out really good,
I To be honest, I just like the finish on that. That'd make for great bases and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Oh,
works for yeah, it works as a great base, you know. Whether it's building or displaying, or a lot of the guys on YouTube, if you're doing the videos of your final product, you can actually just set it up and bring it around and stop it. You know, you can bring it around and stop it to wherever you want, wherever you're filming. And it just works out much nicer. I know after all those years, the hands start to go. You know what I mean? So you're not using one hand to hold it, and then the other one to detail it or fix it. If you got like a base or something, it's there. And it works out pretty good.
so what is that? That's what you got
Okay,
on the.
this year, this year, I I incorporated, and what I did was, well, this here, um, and I'm not going to take the credit for it, because I've seen this when I first started getting back into the modeling and the YouTube and everything else. It was about maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I started watching the videos, and I don't remember who it was, but he used to do tips and tricks videos, and he did a quick blip of a video where this is a circuit board holder for soldering circuit boards. And
Okay.
basically, what it is I basically adapted it. After I got the idea from him, I adapted it and I did a little modifications on it and stuff like that. And I brought it up, for what I want to do. So basically, what I'll do is I'll take a chassis, and it's got slots, and you can adjust this back and forth. And once it's in there, you know what I mean. You crank it down, and that's it. So if you got something, or you got to do some detail, you go in there and do it. You know, and that's pretty
Can
much it.
can you can you spin? Oh, I was just gonna ask if you can spin that car. I was like, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, you could spin it. You could spin it. So you know what? If you're doing detail, you got to get into a certain place. You could spin it. You know, and then when it's done, if you're not working on it, you could always take it and put it on the side so it don't get banged up.
Right. No, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's a cool tip. I
yeah.
like that.
Plus you could. Well, it's a little tight now, but you know, it's adjustable. You know what I mean? So you can adjust the tension on it through the spring. This is adjustable, so that moves in. and you can put anything. I mean, you can bring it all the way. If you're doing 1/32, you can bring it all the way to there. If you're bringing it out, I haven't done a 1/16 on here, but I'm pretty sure 1/16 would be pretty good for a chassis, and it would fit that way. You know.
No,
Like,
that's super cool. I like that.
yeah,
And I think Bobby
yeah,
Bond's right. Lucas C is the first person I think I saw that.
yeah, 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 yeah. I saw somebody do it, and I mean, this is going back 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
So when I was getting back into it, and I was watching the YouTubes and because I've got back into modeling about 5 or 6 years ago, and to be honest with you, I swung a hammer for a living. I was computer illiterate. I didn't know how to use a computer at all. And what brought me back into the modeling community and doing modeling is back about 6 years ago. Um, these people are very very well known within the modeling community. Fred Henry, used to do the Hangouts like 6 years ago, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching these guys and they're having a good old time and they're building models and everything else. I'm like, oh, that's great, man. I'm like, well, how the hell do I get into one of these Hangouts? And what happened was, I learned, I taught myself how to, because I was computer illiterate, man. I was, product of the '70s, grew up in the '80s, swung a hammer, so I didn't have a use for any computers. So then I went down the rabbit hole with computers, due to the fact that I started watching these Hangouts because I wanted to participate in the Hangouts. And yeah, the first Hangout I ever seen live was it was Fred Henry, Jeff, and Fred Henry, Jeff, and Gary Parker. I believe it was Gary.
There was
Parker.
the two kids. There was the two younger kids too in that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what brought me back into modeling, from basically surfing YouTube, and then it started. 6 years ago, I got back into the modeling rabbit hole.
Okay, so let's stick with tools for a second, because you got two more that I want you to show that have very unique, not model tools, but I want you to show.
No, they're not model tools at all. Huh? What's that? Oh, the holders. Yeah. What I did was, these were pretty. A lot of the older guys were, they've seen these. But these are basically nail polish holders. I went on, I was looking through Amazon, and I was looking for, I think I typed in clips and stuff like that, or whatever the hell it was. And what I did was I found these. These are nail polish holders, and basically I use these a lot. If I'm using it for paint, you know what I mean. I can use it for paint. I could tilt the paint any which way I want. I can use different. I can use
in the video you showed with that, you were taking like a plane fuselage, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
You had one at each end, and you could literally turn that whole plane without touching it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I liked about those.
Oh yeah, it was cool because when I was doing the E2C, E2C build, and that E2C build had over 400 decals on it. So what I did was I took the E2C and I popped the fuselage in like that, and then I was able to angle it this way. You know what I mean? Of course, I had it up a little higher to clear the wingspan, but I was able to put the fuselage in between these foam rubber holders. It wouldn't damage the body. It wouldn't damage the decals. And then I was able to, pivot the plane. I was putting the decals on.
Right.
And I get to the other side, I would just flip it over and do the other side. And then if I wanted to take the whole complete aircraft, I just basically pull the aircraft out, flip it over, and work on it that way without dealing with putting all these paw prints and the oils and everything else from your hands, because getting put on the model itself. Because a lot of the guys that do the modeling, after they put their decals on, a lot of people will coat over the decals. But if you got oils on your hands, you know what I mean. When you put clear on, it's not going to those oils are going to disrupt the paint. Unless you thoroughly clean it. And that's where I got started in using these. You know, plus it works out great. Where the hell?
Always looking for something.
Like for your Microsoft. You know what I mean? How many times have we used this crap and knocked it over? You know what I mean? Boom, there goes $5. Works great for this also. Because you
Right.
can pretty much give them a good shot. They're not going unless you knock it off, but they're not really going anywhere. So yeah, that's how I started. That's how I started with these things, and then because even it's even good. See, I like using these when I do aircraft because when
Right.
you're putting the build together and you're putting all this detail into the build, and you're doing the landing gear and everything else. What are you doing? You're taking the model and you're putting the weight right on that landing gear. So it's only modeling glue. You know what I mean? So in time, if you keep wiggling it and touching it, and it actually
So
wears off and winds up snapping. So you can
so
actually
Frankie,
use these, and it
when
works
when
out
you
great.
are doing an airplane build, right? Could you use those clips to like hold the fuselage together?
Well, there is. I mean, it
Or they're
has
not
a. I mean, it has a sufficient amount of grasp on it.
But you know what I
Um,
mean with planes and stuff. There's that one spot that if you don't put something there to hold it, it won't glue together.
yeah. Well, yeah. It will. It will work. It will work. But a lot of times, what I'll do is if I'm doing aircraft or I'm doing the fuselage or something like that, or I'm doing the wings, I'll use the Tamiya extra thin. And what I'll do with this product is I'll squeeze the wing or squeeze the fuselage, and I'll get that really tight. And then basically what I'll do is I'll just hit it right across, and it sucks it right up, and it gives it great adhesion. And then what I'll do is I'll gently let go of it and see if it starts separating. And if it doesn't separate, I'll just hit it again. And it works out good because this stuff evaporates pretty quick. It
Yeah.
evaporates very, very, very quick. You know. So I'll use that for like basically pre-assembly and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But if it's not going to be a problem, I'll go to my regular Tamiya cement. I'll use the thin, or it all depends on what I'm doing and you know what I'm what's going on. I also use the faller glues, the super glues, or stuff like that. There's expert, super expert, and basically it's the amount of time that it takes to dry. Like the super
Right.
expert, I'll use that a lot of times for my mirrors on the sides. You know what I mean? I'll hit it, I'll dab it, and then you basically get pinpoint precision on these. And then basically that's what you'll do. But these are a pain in the neck sometimes because they clog up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
They
bet.
clog up. But simple solution to that, all you do when they clog up is like this one's clogged up right now. All you do is you take a lighter, heat it up, and that's it. You're cleared. And that's it.
Yeah.
It saves the glue and everything else. Um, Before I saw these tips, um, my buddy, one of my buddies was a diabetic. So me transferring everything into the modeling world was he gave me a case of the insulin for the diabetics, and it was a case of the needles, and I was actually using those and getting CA glue in bulk, and basically taking those hypodermics, sucking up the CA glue, and then using that as an application method. you know. But when
Oh,
I when I when I saw the fallers, that's where I started doing. That's why I started buying these. You know.
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So, are
Yeah.
there any other little tools that you want to show before we start talking about paint?
Yeah. Absolutely. These tools, files. These are.
What the heck?
Let me get it. These are files. All right, they're not files. You know what these are? Any of you welders out there? These are tips for cleaning the torch, and they're perfectly round in different gauges. So let's say, for example, someone's building the Enterprise or someone's building a model ship. What you can do with these is, after you drill the hole, you know what the diameter of the hole is because it tells you the gauge of the file for the tip cleaner, and you can actually drill the hole in correspondence with that drill bit, and then you can go like a model ship or the Enterprise. You can actually take that round circle, put that in there, and actually file the inside. You know, and these are basically welders, welding tip cleaners, and that was something that I,
Oh,
you know, that was something that I adapted through the real world, you know, and
yeah.
you know, they come in various sizes. You can also use these for cleaning, you know, some airbrushes and stuff like that for cleaning the tips, you know. But yeah, pretty much I use that for like styrene when I do holes, or if I'm adding a, for example, on this kit, I don't know if you could see it, but what I did was I put my dipsticks in, and I make my own dipsticks out of metal wire. So when I drill the hole, even if it's going to be painted or anything else, I still file the hole, and then you know, I'll use one of those to file it. And I also use that for the I file it tight when I drill the holes. Let's say if I'm doing wiring and plugs or anything like that, I'll drill the hole tight, and then what I'll do is I'll actually go in there with one of these files and loosen it up a little bit so it's snug, and then I'll place the wiring in there. So this way, the wiring is in there nice and snug without using glues and adhesives to make that wire stick. You know, so
that is cool.
Yeah, you know, so you know, the less glue and adhesive you use it's actually easier and better because, you know, when shit goes wrong, it's going to be because of the glue.
Hey, Frankie, before you put that glue away, what is the name of that glue? Someone's asking in the chat.
The name of this glue is Faller, Faller, and it comes in 2 grades. There's expert and super expert.
Hey, Frankie, flip it around. We're reading it upside down, buddy.
So you like that?
Yeah, perfect.
That's you. Okay, that's it right there. And it's Faller.
Fallen. Okay.
Faller. It's cheaper. It's basically CA glue, but I think what they did was they have I guess the petroleum product. I think it might be acetone because it evaporates pretty quick. So I think it may just have a higher content of acetone in the super expert, so it evaporates quicker and dries quicker. You know, this stuff dries really fast. This dries comparable to your regular CA glue. The expert is comparable to regular CA glue, and this is just quicker. And it's a liquid. It's not a gel. Yeah, so yeah, for tools, that's, you know, these things will work every plug.
So Frankie, is one a gel and the other thin?
No, they're both thin. They're both thin. What I'll do for my gels, let's see, is this a gel? This is regular super glue. Let me get a gel. I'll just use a regular squeeze tube gel. You know, anything like that, or some of the gel that I'll pick up from like Harbor Freight. You know, some of this stuff, super glue stuff. From Harbor Freight, these things are cheap enough. It's like 10 of them in a slide for like a couple bucks. You know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but I don't open them up. If I open them up, a lot of times what I'll do is either if I'm using it a lot, I'll crack the top open. If not, I'll just take a just to save the glue, because everybody knows once you use these glues, they're done and they're done. They're just going to dry out. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take a toothpick. I'll penetrate it there with the toothpick, and then when I need to get my super glue, I just pull the toothpick out. And after I'm done, I put it back and it seals it. So this way I don't have to dry out. I don't let all that extra air into the tube where that air is actually going to dry the super glue. You know, so yeah, basically I just take a toothpick and puncture it, and that makes a nice seal. So this way you don't have all that extra air in there, and it's a good way to save glue too. You know.
That's a good tip. I like that one. That's a great tip.
Yeah. Plus it doesn't leak all over the place. You know, when
Right.
you because when you go with super glue, you got that
Right.
3/16 of an opening. You're squeezing it, and it's coming out. It's all over the place. It becomes a mess, and then before you know it, your hands are stuck together. What you do is you just take your toothpick, pull it out, apply it, and then just stick it back. And when the toothpick gets roached, you pick up another one and toss it in, and they redo the seal, and it doesn't dry out on it. You know?
Yeah, the last couple people I've had on have all had great uses for toothpicks.
Oh
So
yeah, toothpicks, toothpicks. Your cotton swabs. You know?
actually,
You know.
I like getting the ones that have the tip at the dollar store because those are better for like cleaning out the tips of like airbrushes.
Yes, yeah. Well, what I buy a lot of is these things. These things are great too. And these, you see these? These are like micro brushes, but they're made for makeup
Yeah.
and for nail salons for doing designs on nails, and they come in a variety of diameters. You know, so right here I got, let's see, I got one, two, three, four. I got 5 different diameters, and they work great. And then after you're done, if you're not using them for paints or adhesive, you can actually just pull the tip off, and then you can actually do pinpointing of detail on motors. If you want to do the bolts or the lugs or anything else, and you can actually go in there and pinpoint with it. And it works
See
very good.
now what I use those with, the alligator clips where you can like attach them to stuff.
Yes.
I use those to attach some of them sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, it works great. And yeah, those will actually work great for your
Yeah.
for your
just
stands.
they're just long enough or round
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Finally,
So
toothpicks are the secret weapon to painting eyes on a figure. You can clean up any mess with them like an eraser. That's it's coming from
oh yeah,
Mr. Dragon.
oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. And depending on the paint, if you're using like the acrylics, toothpicks are great because if you screw up with the acrylics, you can actually moisten the end of the toothpick and get it a little bit soft, and you can actually use it to clean it up, like Gil said. Right? That was Gil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. You got any other tools you want to show?
No, it's I'm sure everybody's got a set of these. I use these. These are nutcrackers. I use the nutcrackers to basically open my bottles up.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Get a little bit of a grip on it, and then work it that way. One thing is you can actually, where is it? Badger actually came out with it, but these things here, this is a paint mixer. All you need to do is go to the dollar store and get a drink mixer. It's the same thing. You go to the dollar store, you get a drink mixer, and you set that right inside your paint bottles and mix it up. Yeah, that works out great too. I mean, this one I bought, but I've seen them at the dollar. Of course, after I spent 15, 17 bucks, I see the drink mixers at the dollar store for a couple of bucks. So this one, it only has 1 speed, but it came with 2 batteries. So what I did was it was the RPMs were too fast on this. So what I did was I made a slug. I made a slug out of a nut and a bolt. So instead of the 3 amps, instead of 1.5 volts, instead of 3 volts running through, I knocked it down to 1.5 with the slug, and the RPMs are a little bit slower.
Okay, now wait a minute. You said slug. Is that just like a metal rod, right? or the bolt?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's like all I did was I made up a bolt to touch both contacts in lieu of the battery.
Oh,
And
okay.
so instead of having the 1.5 from the double A battery, instead of having 3 volts from the double A, it creates continuity, and then you get the 1.5 out of it. So you get lower RPMs. And then what you want to do is if you want to go up to the higher RPMs, you pull the bolt out and just toss the battery in. And you're good to go.
Oh, dude, I'm so stealing that one. Because I have that mixer, and I don't use it because it like throws paint if you don't quite get it all the way to the bottom.
Exactly. But if you take a bolt, it's a regular carriage bolt. Oh, and I use the carriage bolt because of the flat surface. A fence bolt, a carriage bolt is all I used.
Sweet. No, I'm stealing that one. I'm for surely stealing that one.
Yeah, I measured the battery, and what I did was I used the carriage bolt. I put 2 bolts on there to keep it up, and then the threads that I had over that were extra. I just basically took a cutoff wheel and sliced it right off, and then just ground it flat. So yeah, that worked out pretty good. Yeah, because these things, when you got the 3 volts, it's just too powerful, and it just spits everything all over the place.
And before we get off tools, on your channel, there's a bunch of like tool tips videos that you have done in the past that are all kinds of knowledge in there too. Yeah.
I've for example, what do I got here? You see these? A lot of the guys that do figures and stuff, they'll be familiar with these. These are rubber brushes. They're rubber tips. And what I'll use this for is the Multol chrome for detailing. Instead of using a toothpick for the Multol or a brush, I actually take the rubber and use the rubber tip, and you get a nice cleaner line in it, and it actually it spreads the Multol nice and even.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think
it makes it flow nice.
Those brushes are for sculpting, and
they're
in the paintbrush section, but those are for sculpting.
Yes, correct.
Those are awesome. I've got a set. Somewhere.
Yeah, so I've used that. So if I got to do touch up or something with the Multol, whatever it is, I'll use that, because I got the Multol pens. I don't use the pens no more because the pens always crap out. So what I'll do is I'll buy the refills, and I'll use the refill, and I'll work out of the refill and work it that way. Until we find the magic unicorn tears for chrome. Yeah,
there's no that one day there will be. One day there will be.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll go down that rabbit hole and try to make up a formulation for it. I'll bust out my chemistry skills. How hard could it be, right? I mean, maybe, well, you never know. Maybe you take a little bit of this. Maybe you take a little bit of ink. You put a little acetone in there. You put a bonding agent. I mean, all you really need is like a bonding agent, a liquid paint bonding agent. And who knows, man? Maybe see what happens, man. Maybe you take the derivative of the chrome nail polish and add.
But the problem I have with chrome is once you clear coat it, it like dulls it.
Yeah. The Multol, and anything out there is it's gonna dull on you, and after you clear coat, it's gonna dull. Even that other expensive shit where you I don't know where it is now, but I paid a pretty penny for it. I mean, it works out good, but you got I don't know what the hell the name of it was. You lay a black base on it, and then you spray it. It comes in a little glass bottle. I mean, that stuff worked great too. But
glass bottle. You're not talking about the mirror stuff, are you?
No, let me see if I can. I think it's in here. Oh, those are great too. While I'm poking around, I use these to hold my
sprue.
Yeah, to hold all the spruce. It's a letter holder. That's all it is.
Right.
99-cent
Yeah.
letter holder. Put it on the
No,
bench
that's
and keep all
awesome.
my sprues in line. You know?
Oh, Alclad.
Alclad. Yes. Yes. Alclad. The blue label. Absolutely. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
I haven't ever used that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I like using the Alclad when, depending on how deep I'm going down the rabbit hole with the chrome, a lot of times I'll strip all the chrome with easy off oven cleaner. And if I'm doing it quick, I'll use easy off oven cleaner to strip the chrome with. And then, then I'll spray all my parts with the Alclad. If I'm really going down a crazy rabbit hole, I mean, you get a pretty decent product, and it's pretty consistent too. Once you get the knack of using the Alclad, I put it through an airbrush. I never used an airbrush until I started getting into the modeling community. And the first person I saw that used the airbrush, other than Gil, where he was doing the figures, was in reference for cars, was Chapman, where he did a 53 or 54 Chevy in all acrylics with the airbrush. I was like, wow, that's pretty great, because at the time I really didn't want to use the petroleum products in the house, so I figured, you know what, I can use an acrylic and it'll keep the odors down and everything else, and that's how I got into the airbrush, as opposed to using the petroleum products. You know, that becomes a challenge too, because I find that the petroleum products are much easier to lay down and everything else. But when you come across a challenge, and you got to switch, that's where I started to go with the acrylics, and I got pretty proficient in spraying acrylics. I mean, I would just take I did a '68 Camaro build that was done with all acrylics. It was done with all acrylics and Stynylrez res. You know what I mean? And I was spraying shit like this through the airbrush.
Right.
Cheap crap, not dollar paint.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'll mix up my own paints. I'll take I'll throw inks in the I'll mix up my own paint for my colors. So I'll take inks and I'll put metal flake ink in there.
Wait, metal flake ink. What is that?
Oh, this is basically iridescent silver.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, I'm getting let's say, for example, I want a little silver in there with a little bit of flake that's scale to the model. I'll use this as opposed to using a flake on a commercial product where the flake itself isn't the proper scale. You know what I mean? So when you see a paint job on something that comes out of the can or anything else, the flake is not to scale for the models. Because usually the flakes are much larger. And when I mix my paint up, I'll take a couple of dabs of this. I'll throw the silver in there, put a couple of drops in, or if I want a little bit of gold flake, I'll put some of that in. When I shoot my root beers and my browns, I'll actually put silver and gold in there. And then,
okay.
Yeah, put silver and gold in there, and when you lay it down, it pops real nice. So you can actually do a play on the colors. So this way, when it comes out, it's not the ordinary run of the mill out of the can or out of the bottle color. So
no, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. Plus, I use a lot of these. I use a lot of inks all the time. For example, these are my go-to colors when I do exhaust. I go down to the rabbit hole where I'll actually go around the mufflers and I'll actually go around the weld points. I'll use purple, silver, and blue. I'll use purple, silver, and blue to actually mimic the weld on stainless and stuff like that.
Are those all the Liquitex stuff?
Well, this is Liquitex, and this is FW pearlescent. These I picked up from Michaels. When Michaels was having they would have like the 50% off coupons.
Yeah, and Hobby Lobby has the other. It's Dale something, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was just going around and experimenting with it, but I found out that um, this product here is much more thinner. So I like to use this for the detailing around my welds and stuff like that. The Liquitex is much better for the paints because the pigment it's a much heavier pigment as opposed to this product. So this is your heavier pigment, and this is a lighter pigment as far
Okay.
as weight goes on the pigment. You know.
Oh,
So
sweet.
this applies pretty good and it sticks pretty good. This one you got to work with. So this is basically like a blender. You use to blend stuff with on that. But yeah, the paints I use all types of paints. Now I use testers paints. If I'm going to spray something and I'm really just, I'll use the Tamiya paints. If or I'll just pop the can and basically use the paint out of the can and run that through an airbrush. You know.
I'm actually thinking about taking that Tamiya clear that they have, right, and using that for more of the finishing stuff that I do now.
Yeah. Well, the Tamiya clear, even in the cans, is a pretty damn good product. It's a good
Right.
product, and their aerosol nozzles, they got a pretty good darn aerosol nozzle. The thing is with those with the Tamiya paints, whether it's clear or the colors, when you're using that aerosol, I like to keep a Q-tip around. What I'll do is I'll actually wet the Q-tip. I'll keep it wet, and then what I'll do is I'll put it in. I'll put it in. I'll use it, and I'll dip it in there in the cleaner, and then just clean the aerosol tip off. So this way you don't get a buildup of paint. So
Oh, gotcha.
in between coats, when you're doing in between coats and they're drying, take the what I'll do is I'll actually take the can, turn the can upside down, spray it, let some of the propellant flow through to clean the edge of the tip off, and then I'll just go in there with a Q-tip and just clean it right off. So when I'm ready to go and spray the next time, it's all clear. And I'll do a test spray on the side. Once it's flowing nice, then I'll go hit it again. You know. But this stuff I use a lot because I use a lot of acrylics. This is Gil's Jesus Juice. You know.
Yeah, that stuff works great.
Yeah.
For acrylic paint. For acrylic paint.
For acrylic paint, absolutely, it works great. And this is this is Gil's Jesus Juice from Red Dragon Model Works. You know, and if you go on his videos and check it out, he actually shows you how to make it, and it's great, and it works great. It works great. You know.
Or message him and he'll tell you.
Yeah. But
Right.
that was a lot of the stuff is all information that I've pretty much picked up since I got back into it, and it's only been 5 years since I got back into it.
Yeah, see, Jesus juice.
Yeah, Gil's Jesus Juice, man, that's just the best. You know?
All right, Frankie,
Yeah,
we've been about
a lot
an
of the stuff.
Go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is
a
lot of us. It's basically what a lot of people could do is tips and tricks and everything else. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube, and all you really have to do is just go on YouTube and just watch the videos. And it doesn't matter. You could pick up tips from an expert right down to a novice. You know what I mean? You can look at a tip and someone's building, and you pick it up and you say, "Holy shit, look at that! That's great!" And it doesn't matter what their level of expertise is. You can always learn from other modelers and everybody else in the community, and that's what's great about this community, because everybody's willing to help each other out, teach each other, and everything else. And it's a great community. It's a great modeling community. It really is.
And I agree, Joe. Tips and tricks are supposed to be shared. Absolutely, 100%, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? It's the way to do it.
All right, Frankie. So we did an hour and 15 minutes. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, no. Thank you though, because you're like I've always referred to you as the Johnny Carson. You're Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show of the modeling community. Da, 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 da. No, it's good.
Right.
It's nice, man, and I really enjoy the videos you do with Meet the Modeler because you get to see what people are all about as opposed to just the modeling, just as opposed to what they're posting up on their videos. You know what I mean?
Right.
You get a taste of seeing what people are about and how they got into it and their journey into model making and how they jumped in and jumped out of it. And I think it's great. I think it's great. It just it actually brings the community together much more on a personal aspect as well as a overall building community. And definitely hats off to you for doing that, man. Definitely, it's a great idea, and it's a great idea, and I just love the show you do, man. It's just great. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass because I'm on, you know, but but yeah, I really do enjoy it, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that do that across the board just enjoy it, you know, and they'll just throw it on where they're building at the bench, toss one of your videos on, or they'll toss one of the hangouts on, and they'll just build if no one's around doing live hangouts. At least they're building with something on in the background, you know, as opposed to
Right.
building. Yeah,
Right.
as opposed to building for yourself. You could watch a rerun of a hangout, or you could watch a rerun of an interview, or you could watch YouTube videos just playing in the background. So this way, you know what I mean? Because most of us modelers are pretty much building by ourselves, unless they're part of a building group, which is far and few between. But at least
Right.
at least at least people could stay connected within the modeling community by by watching each other's videos as they're building. If they're not participating in a hangout, and most of the hangouts, for the guys that are out there, if they're really, really, a lot of the guys won't come on the hangouts because they're like, you know what I mean? I'm not a good modeler, blah, 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 and on and shit like that. You go on these hangouts. I mean, Cliff has got a great hangout over at GI Mechanics. He's got a great hangout. Got
Yes,
Fuels has got a hangout, and everybody's been hangouts. As long as you're not a disruptive idiot. You know what I mean? It's all fine and dandy because the modeling community as a whole, everybody embraces each other and they're all willing to help each other out. And it's just a way of staying connected through the modeling community. And you got your big boys out there. You got Fred Henry, Charlie Mack, man. I mean, those are all the guys. Those are all to me. Those are all your guys. They're the CEOs of the modeling community. They're the pillars, and it's off of their representation of what they're about and who they're about, and basically what's going on through the modeling community. And they've actually made a structure of the modeling community through those guys, going back to like Dr. Cranky and everybody else, And it really, it's those guys that actually got me back into modeling, and it's actually those guys that drew me back into the modeling community. And to be honest with you, if I didn't see Dr. Cranky, or I didn't see Fred Henry's videos, or I didn't see Charlie Mack's videos, or Jeff's videos between his modeling and his ferrets, I never would have got back into modeling, to be honest with you.
And the one I'm going to add to that list is Chris Cortell.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what got me posting videos was him. So, but I agree with all those names. They're really, and now there's a new YouTuber. There's at least 2 new ones a week. It's group is growing, and it's great to see. And the great
Oh,
thing is it's not just guys, it's girls or women too now.
absolutely. See, model building is not a hands-on skill. It's
Right.
actually an artist. You can present your artist, and everybody art's different, and there's different levels of art, and there's different levels of wherever you want to take it. And if you could take a person, some people will take a motor. They'll take a motor and they'll put. I know I do. I'll put so much work into that motor. See, I don't buy. I don't like to use like when I do movies and stuff like that. I'm using craft stuff to twist everything up. And I'm doing it all by hand. So when it's actually it's actually a quote unquote work of art for the modeler to present his work and have a showcase on it. So that's why a lot of people get discouraged because it's like, you know what I mean? I can't perform up to that level, or I can't do this or that and everything else. But you know what? You keep at it, you keep doing it, you hone your skills, or you'll be building stuff that will blow people's doors off. They'll look at it and they'll say, "Holy shucks, look at that!" You know what I mean? But yeah, you just got to get into it to do it, and then get into it and do it, and don't be shy and just put it out there. You're gonna have your haters out there. Everybody that's even starting off channels. You're gonna have your haters out there regardless. But you know what? You do what's right for you. You build what you like to build. Don't build for anybody else. If you build for anybody else, you're never going to be satisfied with your product. You build for yourself, and what makes you feel good. And that's it.
Right.
And if everybody has any negative comments on it, you know what? You can, if they have any negative comments on it, or they're getting put back by the negative comments, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them, because chances are they probably don't even build models. They probably don't even have, you know what I mean? They don't have the benches. They're not doing shit. All they're sitting there doing is kicking around commenting.
Right.
So yeah. Anybody that's out there that's building, just put your work out there, post it on YouTube, and it's nice to actually see the progression of modelers from when they start out to present. You know what I mean? It's amazing. I mean, their work just increases tenfold, 20-fold as time goes on. It's pretty cool to see the detail and the amount of work that they progress to. I just love it. That's because I just love modeling.
So Marcy, I agree with this comment. We've always been here, Josh, just like in the gaming community. The thing that I like right now, and this is one of the things I try to bring some of the women modelers on, is that it's a safe community now, that they're not getting harassed. They're not, and that's why we're starting to see more women YouTube builders. Yeah. I want to keep that momentum going as much as possible because it's great to see. Yes. But 3 or 4 years ago, if a woman modeler came on and started posting videos, I'd want to slap every guy that was rude to her.
Yeah.
And that's what. And I don't mean that as I'm not trying to be negative about that situation, but sometimes people need to grow up and be respectful of everybody.
Yes. But that's what makes this modeling community it's a great place for everybody. And now what happens is, you know what I mean, if there's stuff on that's being put in the chat and they're being disrespectful, people will just knock them right off with the wrench and just knock them right off. They know what's appropriate and they know what's not, and within the modeling community, we pretty much police ourselves, which is great about it, and it's a good community, and that's what's good about it. Everybody's welcome in the community, I mean, some of the hangouts at night, may not be kid appropriate, but as a YouTuber, they can get pretty crazy. But as a YouTuber, and you're putting your product out there, and you're putting the hangouts out there, you put it as, if you think there's going to be any type of content that's going to be inappropriate, all you do is put 18 and older. That's it.
Right.
and that opens it up to the younger generation where they can actually pick up these tips and tricks, you know. And it's good to put some videos out there that aren't that 18 and over, you know. That happened like 3 years ago when they started changing the rules and everything else on YouTube.
Right.
And all of a sudden now everybody took all that content. Either they completely got rid of all that content and it was completely gone and banished, or they put it 18 and over. And what happened was all the kids that were coming up that were getting into it, they kind of got shut out of the modeling community due to that fact, you know?
Well, and this isn't a negative thing, but that's why I try to keep these interviews as PC or PG as possible. That way, when kids look at these, they can get good tips. It's not. Yeah. I've tried really hard to make that happen, but sometimes language happens, and
I'm definitely one of those. I'm definitely one of those language individuals sometimes. But the thing is, if I would be. I mean, if I was sitting around and my son was doing models and my son was 10, 11, 12 years old, and he heard, and I was hearing in the background inappropriate language. I mean, a curse here and there is fine, but I mean, inappropriate language or anything that was completely off the wall, you know what I mean? I would just say, yo, turn it off, you know what I mean? And I would actually block it on them, but the community's pretty good like that, They don't get, they don't get off the rails and, to be disrespectful and things of that nature on purpose,
You know what? RPM, I don't know if I agree with that. I want to say maybe 15, 16. I could see that being, but below that, I think parents need to know what's going on, right?
Oh yeah. Once they're 15, 16, I mean, in today's world, what's going on, you got to keep an eye on your kids all the way up to the age of 17, 18, 19 with all the nonsense going on there. You know what I mean?
But, and 15, 16-year-old, you can get tried as an adult anyway. So you're pretty much treated as an adult at that point.
Yeah. But you know what? You want your kids to be kids. We're living in such a fast-paced world. I mean, they're pressuring these kids in 5th and 6th grade. What do you want to be as a career? The kid doesn't even. There's no time for a kid to be a kid. And sometimes, hopefully, modeling, a kid will get into building models, or start building models and go into a different avenue, whether maybe building RCs or something like that. But,
I agree with that RPM. I agree with that.
I mean, I'm still a kid at heart.
Right.
I'm still a kid at heart, you know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is,
So Frankie, did you have any questions for me?
What brought you into the modeling community to start going live and doing the hangouts? Because the first time I saw you was in I think it was on Don Williams' hangout, wasn't it? Or maybe Gil's hangout on Facebook.
Probably Gil's first. Probably Gil's first. I'm in a lot of the hangouts. So
yeah. But what brought you to the point that said, you know what? I'm gonna click that button and I'm gonna join that hangout. What brought you up to that point? So other people up to that point where they're on the fence of like whether to join a hangout or not, or to participate in a chat. What brought you to that breaking point of saying, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start posting my builds. I'm going to start doing interviews. I'm going to start doing hangouts. What was your breaking point that you said, I'm just going to do it, and you click that button?
So do you remember when Gil used to do the Saturday talk session, like he'd bring on like a lighting guy and like a they talk about like a Star Trek kit. You remember all that stuff probably about 7, 8 years ago?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So like I don't read and write very well. I still really don't. But So it's easier for me to ask a question like this, right?
Yes.
And so as soon as they go offline, they put the Hangout link up, and then I'd automatically just started going in there and asking
Yeah.
questions. That's what got me
Yeah.
into the Hangouts.
Yeah.
Because I was still really getting back into it. At that point, I don't even think I was recording videos yet. I was just on YouTube watching.
Yeah.
What got me to post videos? I want to say Chris Cortell. He was a big influence really early on. Because I was watching him, Fast Jimmy, Dr. Cranky. He's not on anymore, and I can't he totally took his channel down, so I can't even look it up to what it was. But there was another guy that was doing lowriders and stuff, and it was those 4 channels got me to at least try. I thought I could try doing some of it. And I don't really have a local. There is a local club near me, but it's one of those where it's like an IPMS thing, where the president of the club wins first place, second, and the people running the show basically are winning all the awards. And I just, I thought that was,
Yeah.
not very productive if you're trying to grow a community, which is why they only have 7 members. So,
Yeah.
it's.
Well, I think that's why I think a lot of us and a lot of people do get like yourself get into the YouTube community, because you're able to show your work, and then you can see the comments of what they liked about it, or there's usually never anything really what they didn't like about it. It's all constructive. Maybe people on comments, people will leave comments, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? It's not that type of community. It's not that type of people that are subscribing to everybody's channels. They're there because they want to learn and they want to watch videos without the negativity.
Oh, the Flying Dutchman. That's a new name. I just saw a shop card. There should be a newcomer prize or something. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Chris Chapman. That's another one that's really. He was on the modeling scene about 10 years ago.
Yes.
And then just kind of, he didn't go away. He just got into more, what was the other comment up there? Oh, there's a new channel, 25 Times channel. I saw the video, but I don't know. Yeah, it's, I saw the video. I subscribed to him, so hopefully his channel grows, because I think he's only got 6 subscribers at this point.
Yeah. Who made the comment about the award for newcomers? I think that's a great idea for someone to put out there and pick where you have rookie took their channel and just went sky high with it. I mean that's a great idea. Great idea, great concept. And then maybe, who knows, maybe they could put a vote. We could put a vote on it in comments. Who do you think should be the rookie of the year? And that's a great way of actually opening up and for everybody that's in the community to view different channels and different avenues of different modelers.
Yeah, no, I mean, realistically, that's kind of what got me into doing the. And then once I got onto doing some of the hangouts and stuff, and then I found out there's a Facebook pages to most of these videos.
Yes.
And it's just, it's a big, I call it a big snowball turning into an avalanche, but
Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that.
You got any other questions for me?
Nope. I just hope that you continue doing these Meet the Modelers, man, because everybody enjoys them. And definitely subscribe to Josh's channel. You know, like I said, Josh, you're going to be the Johnny Carson of the modeling community, man. I'm gonna have to jump in my recording studio and drop you a an introduction song. you know, you know?
Right. I no, I get that. I think I could even add that to the thing I have with my son that plays. I think I can add music to that too. I don't know.
Yeah, you got your own little theme song, man. You know. Here's Josh. Here he
Right.
comes. You know.
Well, and the cool part about this is like I'm kind of running these as seasons now. I'm not doing them because when I started this, we were in COVID. So I could just keep going week to week to week to week to week to week because I didn't have anything else better to do. But in the summertime, I'm going to take a break and then probably at least after school starts. That way I can get my son going in school and I don't have to worry about, and the weather's still nice in September here. But then, into September, early October, I'm going to start this back up. Yeah. Get
Yeah, when you get time.
Yeah, and then what I was going to tell you is next season we're going to have more of like a group chat, and you, Frizzo, Chris,
That'd be cool.
and Justin should come on for one of them.
Oh, Frankie, Frizzo's model car. When he does, they're great hangouts, man.
Right.
You have great builders in there. And
right.
Everybody in there is a lot of tips and tricks and showing people how to do things and everything else, man. Yeah, I really enjoy Frank Frizzo's model cars. I enjoy his channel, man. He's a good builder, down to earth, and very personable. He has an excellent hangout, also.
All right, man. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I'm gonna end this. And I will talk to you in a couple minutes. Okay. Copy that,
man. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me blab on, and thank you very much, Josh, for having me on, man.
Yeah, see you in a minute. All right, everybody. So that's Frankie B. I really get along with Frankie pretty well. As you guys can see, he's a really cool guy. If you're not subscribed to his channel, please go over and subscribe. He's got a lot of great info. As you saw, some of the tips just in some of the tools and paint, and really cool guy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. Oh. Helps if I end it.